Chapter 10, The Carousel. The first thing he noticed was the silence. Not the heavy, waiting silence of Blackhaven's corridors, but something thicker, a silence that had been left to rot. It clung to the air like dust, broken only by the slow grind of metal somewhere above him, a noise that seemed to come from the bones of the world itself. Ethan Cole opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was a patchwork of cracked fiberglass panels and rusted steel beams. A single fluorescent tube buzzed weakly, casting the room in a jaundiced light that made everything look sick. He was lying on a bench, his cheek pressed against cold metal. He sat up slowly, his head pounding with a dull, foreign ache. He looked down at his clothes, a dark blue coverall, stained with grease and something that might have been rust. A patch on the chest read Ethan in white thread, and beneath it, maintenance. He touched the name. It felt like a label on a jar. He didn't remember putting it on. He didn't remember anything. The room was a break room, or what passed for one. A plastic table, a tipped-over chair, a fridge with the door hanging open, its interior black with mold. A corkboard on the wall held yellowed schedules and a faded poster of a smiling clown holding balloons. The clown's eyes had been scratched out. He tried to think back. The last thing he knew, no. There was nothing. A wall of static where memory should be. He knew his name, but the word felt hollow, borrowed. He knew what a screwdriver was, how to breathe, how to stand. But he didn't know how he had gotten here, or why his hands were trembling. His fingers found a piece of paper in his pocket. It was folded into a tight square, the edges soft with wear. He opened it. Asterisk maintenance protocol, night shift asterisk. 1. Asterisk inspect the carousel before sunset. Ensure all lamps are lit. Report any broken bulbs to the office. Asterisk. 2. Asterisk if the music begins, do not look at the carousel. Do not approach it. Wait inside the control booth until the music stops. Asterisk. 3. Asterisk never ride the carousel. Not even for inspection. Asterisk. 4. Asterisk if you see children in the park after dark, escort them to the main gate. Do not let them board any ride. Do not let them touch the carousel. Asterisk. 5. Asterisk the park closes at midnight. No exceptions. Asterisk. 6. Asterisk if you hear a child crying inside the carousel, do nothing. It is not a child. Asterisk. 7. Asterisk if the carousel lights go out, leave the park immediately. Do not look back. Asterisk. The handwriting was sloppy, as if written in a hurry. Some of the ink had been smeared, maybe by water, maybe by something else. At the bottom, in smaller letters, asterisk remember, you are here to fix things. Not to remember. Asterisk. He read the last line twice. Not to remember. That felt like a joke. He couldn't remember anything to begin with. He folded the paper and put it back in his pocket. The instructions were clear. The carousel. He needed to inspect it before sunset. He moved to the door, a steel door with a push bar, and shoved it open. The park hit him like a wave. It wasn't the smell, though that was bad enough, stale popcorn, rotting wood, and the cloying sweetness of cotton candy that had long since turned to sugar dust. It was the scale. The avenues stretched out in a grid of faded asphalt and cracked concrete, lined with booths and kiosks that had once been bright and were now the color of old bones. A Ferris wheel loomed to his left, its spokes draped in cobwebs that caught the dying sunlight. A roller coaster track twisted overhead like a dead serpent. Everything was still. The only sound was the creak of a sign swinging slowly in the breeze, Wonderland Park, where dreams come to play. One of the letters had fallen off. It read, Where dreams come to par. At the center of it all, under a striped canopy that had long since gone gray, stood the carousel. It was larger than he'd expected. 40 horses, maybe more, arranged in concentric circles. They were frozen in mid-gallop, their painted eyes wide and glossy. Some were decorated with brass rings and golden saddles. Others were chipped and worn, patches of raw wood showing through. The music box at the center, a massive cylinder of brass and steel, stood silent. The lamps around the rim were dark. He checked his watch. It was a simple analog watch, metal band, probably issued with the uniform. The time read 4:47 p.m. Sunset. He had maybe an hour of decent light left. He walked toward the carousel, his footsteps echoing on the pavement. Nothing stirred. But he felt eyes on him. Not from any visible source, just the weight of a space that had been watched for a long time. He reached the platform steps. The wooden planks were warped and splintered. He climbed up and walked between the horses, noting the dust, the cobwebs, the strange stillness of the animals. They didn't feel like wooden horses. They felt like things that were holding their breath. He started the inspection. The lamps were oil-based, each one a small glass globe with a wick. He checked them one by one, using a lighter he found in his pocket. Most were dry. A few had a residue of oil. He refilled them from a can he discovered under the platform. The can was half full, the oil thick and smelling of kerosene. He worked methodically, lighting each lamp as he went. It was a slow, meditative task, and it kept his hands busy while his mind raced in circles. He tried to grasp the edges of his lost memory, but it slipped away like water through his fingers. He knew he was missing something important. Something about a house, a door, a woman's face, a name. Maya. The name surfaced without context, but it felt warm, important. He clung to it for a moment, then lost it again. He finished lighting the last lamp just as the sky began to redden. The carousel was now ringed with a soft amber glow. It should have looked festive. Instead, it looked like a row of eyes opening in the dark. He stepped off the platform and walked toward the control booth, a small wooden structure at the edge of the carousel. He needed to wait inside until the music stopped. That's what the protocol said. He found the booth unlocked and went in. The booth smelled of stale coffee and cigarette butts. A panel of levers and buttons faced the carousel. A single stool sat in the corner. He sat down, facing the glass window. The sun dipped below the horizon. The music began. It wasn't a song. It was a lullaby, playing on a music box that had been wound too tight. The notes came out too slow, too sad, as if the machine itself was tired. The carousel began to turn. The horses rose and fell on their poles, their painted eyes catching the lamplight. The motion was hypnotic. Ethan forced his gaze away, staring at the floor of the booth. The rule said not to look at the carousel while the music played. He didn't know why. He didn't want to find out. But he heard other sounds beneath the lullaby. Footsteps. Soft, pattering footsteps, like small shoes on asphalt. And laughter. A child's laughter, high and clear, coming from somewhere outside. He pressed his back against the wall. The footsteps came closer. They circled the booth. A shadow passed by the window, small, with pigtails. He didn't dare look up. "Mister," a voice said. It came from right outside the door. He stayed silent. "Mister, are you new?" The voice was sweet, innocent. A little girl's voice. "Can you help me? I lost my ride." The protocol said, if you see children in the park after dark, escort them to the main gate. But it also said, if you hear a child crying inside the carousel, do nothing. This was a child outside the carousel. Could he open the door? He didn't want to look at the carousel. The view from the booth included the carousel in the reflection of the glass. If he opened the door, he'd be facing away from it, maybe. He decided to follow the rule. He kept his eyes on the floor, reached for the door handle, and opened it without standing up. "I can't see you right now," he said. "I need you to go to the main gate. It's not safe here." "But I want to ride," the girl said. Her voice had a whining edge. "The carousel is the only ride that works." "The carousel is broken," Ethan said. "You can't ride it." "It's not broken. It's awake." He heard footsteps moving away. He was about to close the door when he felt a draft. He glanced up instinctively, just a flicker, but it was enough. Through the window, he saw the carousel. It was still turning. The horses were rising and falling. But now they had riders. Children. Dozens of children, all of them with the same pale face, the same wide eyes, the same small hands gripping the brass rings. They were all smiling. And on the outermost horse, nearest the booth, sat a little girl in a green dress, her pigtails tied with white ribbons. She was facing him. She was not smiling. She raised a hand and waved. Ethan slammed the door shut. His heart pounded. He forced his eyes back to the floor. The music continued. The lullaby repeated, looping over itself. He didn't know how long it lasted, minutes, maybe an hour. But eventually the notes slowed, stretched, and stopped. Silence fell. He waited a long moment, then risked a look through the booth's side window. The carousel was still again. The lamps were still lit. The horses were empty. He released a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. It was over. He could go back to the break room, wait out the night. Tomorrow he would finish the inspection. But as he stepped out of the booth, he saw something on the platform. A small object, shining in the dim light. He walked over and picked it up. It was a child's hair clip. A white ribbon, tied into a bow. He held it for a moment, then pocketed it. That night, he slept in the break room, huddled on the bench. He didn't dream. He only felt a cold presence, watching from the shadows. The next day, he explored the park. He walked the main avenues, poking into empty booths and abandoned restaurants. The park was a graveyard. He found a ticket booth with a skeleton inside, still wearing a faded uniform. The skull had a bullet hole in the temple. He found a staff room with old photographs on the wall, employees from decades past, all smiling, all nameless. One photo showed a group of mechanics standing around the carousel. In the center was a man with a handlebar mustache and a cap, pointing at the horses proudly. The others looked happy. But in the corner of the photo, a little girl with pigtails was standing alone, her face blurry as if she had moved when the camera clicked. He stared at the photo for a long time. Her dress was green. He searched the rest of the staff room. Under a pile of old newspapers, he found a logbook. It was a maintenance log, entries dated from the 1980s. At first, the entries were routine oil changes, bulb replacements, schedule notes. But as the years progressed, the handwriting changed, grew more erratic. June the 14th, the carousel stopped twice today. Both times, I found a child's hair trapped in the central gear. No children were in the park. Management says it's a loose bearing. I know what I saw. July 2, the music started on its own at 2 a.m. I went to check. I saw a girl on the carousel. She was turning the crank. I called out to her. She vanished. I need to quit this job. August the 8th, I tried to dismantle the center column. Something grabbed my wrench. I can't explain it. I'm leaving. I don't care if they fire me. The last entry was dated October 31st. Halloween. The park is closed. I came back to get my tools. The carousel was running. She was there. She looked at me. I'm sorry, Lily. I'm sorry. Ethan closed the logbook. Lily. The name was familiar, though he didn't know why. He flipped to the back of the book and found a newspaper clipping tucked between the pages. Local tragedy, girl dies in carousel accident. The article was short, from a small-town paper. 5-year-old Lily Morton was killed yesterday when her hair became entangled in the mechanism of the Wonderland Park carousel. Park officials stated that the ride had passed safety inspection just weeks prior. The girl's parents have filed a wrongful death suit. The park has closed the ride indefinitely. He read it twice. He folded the clipping and put it in his pocket, next to the hair clip. He knew, then, what he had to do. The aberration was that the word was the girl. She was trapped here, her resentment keeping the carousel running, keeping the park in this state. He had to help her move on. But how? The rules were designed to keep him away, to keep him from interacting with her. But the logbook said someone, probably the maintenance worker who wrote those last entries, had tried to dismantle the carousel. That had been a mistake. He needed to do the opposite. He needed to acknowledge her. He waited until sunset. The carousel was lit again. He stood on the platform, among the horses, as the sky darkened. The lamps flickered. The music began. This time, he didn't hide. He walked to the center of the carousel, where the brass cylinder housed the music mechanism. The music was louder here, vibrating through the floor. He could feel the gears turning beneath the boards. The horses began to move. He stayed still, feeling them rise and fall around him. The children materialized on the horses, first as faint outlines, then as solid forms. They were all facing him, all staring. The one in the green dress was on the horse directly in front of him. He spoke to her. Lily. The music faltered. A single note hung in the air. I know who you are, he said. I found your hair clip. I read the article. I know what happened. The girl's expression did not change. But the other children, their faces flickered. For a moment, they looked like corpses. Then they returned to their frozen smiles. I'm not here to fix the carousel, he said. I'm here to fix you. He took the hair clip from his pocket and held it out. You don't have to stay here. The park is dead. The ride is over. But you can leave. You just have to let go of the anger. The girl slid off her horse. Her feet touched the platform silently. She walked toward him, her footsteps making no sound. The other children watched. She stopped a few feet away. Her eyes were black, not white. They were two pits of nothing. They forgot me, she said. Her voice was thin, like wind through a crack. They said sorry, but they forgot. They left me here. I won't forget you, Ethan said. I'll remember your name. Lily Morton. You liked the green dress because it matched your mother's eyes. You always sat on the outside horse because you could see the entire park from there. He didn't know how he knew these details. They came to him as he spoke, like memories that weren't his own. The fragment, was working through him, giving him the words. Lily's eyes shimmered. The blackness began to recede, replaced by a dark, wet brown. You see me, she whispered. I see you. She reached out and took the hair clip. Her fingers brushed his, and a cold shot up his arm. He didn't flinch. She clipped the ribbon into her hair. Then she looked up at him, and for a fraction of a second, she was just a little girl. Scared. Lonely. Tired. Thank you, she said. She turned and walked back toward the center of the carousel. The other children faded, one by one, like mist in sunlight. Lily reached the brass cylinder and touched it. The music slowed, then stopped. The horses settled. The lamps dimmed. The central gear groaned, and a compartment opened in the floor. Inside, nestled in velvet, was a fragment of crystal. It pulsed with a soft, golden light. He picked it up. The moment his fingers closed around it, knowledge flooded into him, not his own, but an echo. The architect's voice, dry and clinical, spoke in his skull. The final key requires a living fragment. A fragment of the world tree that has grown a soul. The gate will not open without a blood offering. The vessel must be aware, willing, and whole. There is no substitute. This is the fundamental equation of the Bloodgate system. Do not attempt to circumvent it. All attempts have failed. The vision lasted only a second. But the words carved themselves into his memory. A living fragment. A soul. Vera. He knew her name now. He remembered everything, the asylum, the cabin, Maya, Silas, Blackhaven. He remembered Vera. Pale, dark-haired, with eyes that held 1,000 years of solitude. She was a fragment. She was the key. And the architect was telling him that she would have to die. Ethan stood in the silent carousel, gripping the crystal so hard it cut his palm. Blood dripped onto the floor. He shook his head. No. He said it out loud, as if challenging the empty air. There has to be another way. I don't accept that. The carousel gave no answer. The wind picked up, rattling the canopy. Around him, the park began to crumble into dust, peeling away like old paint. The grey mist of transition curled at the edges of his vision. He closed his eyes and let the void take him. When he opened them, he was lying on the stone floor of Blackhaven, his back against the cold wall of his room. The crystal fragment was in his hand, warm and pulsing. His memory was intact now, the whole of his past, the trials, the faces. He stood up. His body ached, but the pain was distant. He walked out of his room and into the common hall. Maya was there, sitting by the fire, stitching a wound on her forearm. She looked up when he entered, her tired face creasing with relief. "Ethan. You're back." She started to stand, then saw his expression. "What happened? What did you see?" He didn't answer. He looked around the hall. "Where's Vera?" Maya's smile faded. "She's in the library. She's been waiting for you." He moved past her, down the stone corridor, past the hall of doors, to the small room they used as a library. Vera was seated at a wooden table, a book open before her. She looked up as he entered, and he saw the knowledge in her eyes. She already knew what he had learned. 11, she said softly. "The 11th fragment. You have it." "Yes." He set the crystal on the table. It glittered in the candlelight. Vera closed the book. "And you know the rest." "I know what the architect said. The final key needs a living fragment. It needs you." She nodded slowly. "I've always known. I was made for this, Ethan. I'm the last piece of the world tree that still carries a will. Without me, the final gate cannot open. The world will stay broken. I don't accept that." His voice was tight, controlled. "You're not just a piece. You're a person. You have choices. We'll find another way." Vera's ancient eyes softened. She reached out and touched his hand. "You cannot break the equation. The architect built it to be absolute. The Bloodgate system is a closed loop, 12 fragments, 12 trials, one final cost. There is no alternative. I've looked. The 9th Bureau, the Gate of Threads, every survivor who ever came close, no one found a workaround. I'm not giving up." He pulled his hand back, but gently. "There has to be something. A sealed record. A forgotten experiment." The architect was a scientist. He didn't rely on faith. He relied on logic. If he put this in place, there must be a failsafe. A way to complete the gate without a living sacrifice. Maya appeared in the doorway, her arm bandaged. She leaned against the frame. "I've heard rumors. Back when I was with a different group, there was a woman, Marguerite, who claimed the architect had hidden a countermeasure. She said the final key could be substituted with an artifact of equivalent soul weight. She died before she could find it. Everyone thought it was a fantasy." Ethan turned. "Where did she look?" "In the archives. The Undercroft of Blackhaven. But the archives are sealed to most of us. They're keyed to someone with a particular bloodline." Maya paused. "Someone with the architect's blood." Ethan felt a cold certainty settle in his chest. The life swap experiment. Silas's dying words. He was a product of the architect's work. Somewhere in his body, in the DNA that had been rebuilt, there might be a trace, a key. "I'm going to the archives," he said. Maya shook her head. "They're buried deep. No one's been down there in years. It's a labyrinth. And there might be traps. Then I'll navigate." He picked up the crystal fragment and pocketed it. "I'm not letting her die." Vera stood. "Ethan, if you go down there, you might find nothing. And every hour we waste, the grey spreads. The world outside is collapsing faster than we thought. We don't have time for a quest. Then we make time." He looked at her, his eyes fierce. "I didn't survive all those trials to lose someone I care about. I didn't learn the truth about my own memory just to accept a fixed outcome. There is a choice. I'm going to find it." Vera looked at Maya. Maya gave a small shrug, as if to say, "Asterisk is like this. Asterisk." Vera sighed. "At least let me come with you." "No. If something happens, I need you safe. You're the only key. If you die, everything ends." He moved to the door. "Maya, can you find me a map of the Undercroft?" "I can try." She turned to lead the way. As they stepped out of the library, a loud knock echoed through the hall. Not from a door, but from the main entrance of Blackhaven. The great iron-bound door, the one that no one had ever seen open from the outside. The three of them exchanged looks. "We're not expecting anyone," Vera whispered. Another knock. Harder. Ethan walked to the entrance hall. Through the small barred window in the door, he could see a figure standing in the mist. A woman, tall, dressed in a sharp coat. She held up a badge with a symbol he didn't recognize, a stylized eye within a circle. The 9th Bureau, Maya breathed. They found us. The woman outside spoke, her voice muffled by the wood. This is Lena Park, Special Agent. I'm here to speak with Ethan Cole. I have information about the final gate. And about the key. Ethan's hand tightened on the fragment in his pocket. The chapter ended with his fingers on the latch, the weight of the decision pressing down on him: open the door to an unknown ally, or turn away and risk losing the only lead he had. He pulled the latch. The door swung open.